Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Unlocking Your Federal Career. We are currently going to be talking about unlocking federal employment tonight. Dr. Dobson and I are co authors of that book, and we will be releasing soon. And tonight, I am so excited to have on the panel tonight Dr. Neal Hambright and Dr. April Dobson. They both are co authors of The Autonomous Career, and I will allow both of them to introduce themselves. I am Dr. Ebony Grey, and I am the CEO of Gray's Consulting Group. So we'll start off with Dr. Neal.
Thank you, dear Dr. Gray. There again, I'm Dr. Neal Hambright. I'm one of the senior human resource specialists with the United States Department of Veteran Affairs. I've been in federal service. Actually, I'll be celebrating 14 years on this Saturday coming up, believe it or not. So I'm so grateful to be in a position of public service. I am a native of Detroit, Michigan. And I have several years of experience, working in various prestigious federal service in addition to the Department of Veteran Affairs. Professionally, I'm also an associate professor of career placement and services at a local university as well. And also, my educational background, I have a bachelor's of business administration from Eastern Michigan University in Ypsilanti, Michigan. I also hold a master's of organizational management from the University of Phoenix in Phoenix, Arizona. And I also have a doctorate in healthcare administration from Virginia University of Lynchburg in Lynchburg, Virginia. So that's a little bit about who I am and what I do professionally. And I'm just so happy to be on this platform today to share my wealth of experience with you all on this evening.
And thank you so much. I'm super excited to have you on the panel. All of this Black excellence, all of this education and experience will be super helpful to our audience of those seeking to transition and those just trying to get into the federal government. Next up, we have Dr. April Dobson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege to connect with all of you who are watching tonight. And it's just my privilege and honor to be partnered with Dr. Gray and Dr. Hambright. As Dr. Gray mentioned, I'm one of the co-authors of The Autonomous Career. So very excited to have done that project with Dr. Neal Hambright, and excited to be working with Dr. Gray on unlocking your federal employment. I am a senior HR professional. I serve as a branch chief, overseeing a team of senior HR professionals who write HR policy and advise senior leaders. I also am an adjunct professor, author, and public speaker. And so I'm excited to join you all tonight. I have a Doctor of Management and Executive Leadership from Colorado Technical University, where I also teach career planning and management as an adjunct. And I am just excited to be here tonight with you all.
So thank you, Dr. Dobson. And just to set it off, I want both of you to explain your book, what it's about, because I think this will help tie into our next segment.
Absolutely. So the autonomous career, freedom of time and space in your chosen workplace, really encourages individuals to pursue purpose and passion. We fully believe that everyone's purpose and passion should really drive their profession. It should help them to decide which type of business to start or which career path to pursue and advance. And so it's like a career coach in the book. It has questions throughout the book that the reader can answer and write in the book. And by the time that they finish reading the book, they can develop a plan that's customized to them to build the business or career that they envision.
And thank you. And Dr. Neal, would you like to add to that?
Yes, absolutely. The autonomous career, Dr. Dotson so eloquently stated, it is a book that aligns purpose and passion. But more importantly, we believe that when a person has their purpose and their passion aligned in conjunction with their career choice and path, it ultimately leads to freedom. And that's where the word autonomy is kind of given, in which we clearly define in actually chapter 1 as well, like what autonomy is and what it means to, have a sense of freedom. Because when you have freedom, it affects everything in your life, your attitude, your outlook, your direction, and everything. You come to work with a sense of purpose and not like, oh, I'm just getting up and going to a job, or I'm just making it by. No, you're getting up and you're waking up to purpose as well. And you're here because you have a purpose. You're here to make a difference in somebody else's life. So when you're in alignment with that, not only will you benefit from it, but also others that's connected to you will ultimately benefit when you operating in your purpose as well. So our book is very, very powerful. I mean, it's relevant, it's present, it's engaging, and more importantly, it's innovative as well to anyone that chooses to read The Autonomous Career: Freedom of Time and Space in Your Chosen Workplace.
Yes, and I will be posting. So once this is posted to all of our platforms, I'll be posting where you can buy the book, right? Hopefully we'll offer it as a bundle in the future. But again, I do think it's extremely important for people to understand their why, right? What are your values? Why are you pursuing this federal career? So that ties into unlocking federal employment. You need to understand your why. When you're doing the search, it's not just, I want a federal job. I need the federal job. What's your why? What agency do you want to work for? What type of culture do you want to be a part of? What are your values? Do you want to be remote? Do you want to be in the office? What is your purpose and your passion? What career do you even want? So that way you can figure it out and align. So you're not just working a job, but you're actually building a purposeful career.
Yes, absolutely too, and that's what it's inside of the autonomous career as well too. Because initially, the autonomous career was actually birthed out of a vision that I had actually, working at the Department of Veteran Affairs. We have these all employee surveys that goes out in the organization, where our organization really do care about what people are feeling, what they're thinking. Are they enjoying their job? Are they burnt out? We want to know. So I was a part of a program analyst team where I was getting like real live data and stuff. I'm like, wow, so this is what people are really thinking. And at the time, we were in a pandemic. So the autonomous career was birthed out of a pandemic as well. And during this pandemic, people were like, okay, we're forced to work home, but I'm actually loving working home. I'm here with my family, friends, I'm able to work. And statistics and data actually show that families are 10 times more productive working at home than they were coming in the office, because all of their resources was readily available to them at their immediate disposal. That although they get off work at 4 o'clock, but because they have access to their work, they can get off 4 and jump back on at 6. And while everybody else is going home, it's quiet, they're actually getting extra stuff and more projects pushed together many times without being compensated for it, just to keep it. So it was proven that people are much more effective in working in that commodity. And that has happened, so many years to be proven benefits. Also, there has been a cost benefit to the agency. They haven't had too much overhead costs, no, particularly here in DC. There's not a lot of travel expenses, all of those things. So they saved in that regard. On the flip side, what's making the autonomous career more popular now is that politics have gotten involved in it now, and now they want people to come back to work there, and it's a huge resistance and everything. People like, I don't want to come back, and they're really fighting. And the flip side to it is that particularly for Washington, D.C., an example, a lot of the business have suffered from those federal dollars that was coming into the city at one point, and they were benefiting pretty much the worker from staying at home because they had the autonomy and freedom, and they absolutely love it and productive. So now the president has put out an executive order now kind of forcing people to want to come back there. And there's some huge resistance. I mean, huge. So that's why we're so passionate about the autonomous career and how relevant it is even to this day.
And I love that because it works both ways. So first you were talking about working from home and adapting to that life. People didn't want to work from home. I want to go into work. Why am I sitting at home? Now having to go back into work, right? So now you have that opposite effect and you have to deal with that. I think we should address like the mental health aspects. We should address what does that look like? So we created a new life of being virtual and working from home. Now, what does the new normal look like as we transition back into the workplace? And essentially, as people are looking for employment, what does that look like? Because you're going to have mass exodus where people are leaving the federal government. So this is a great time, right? If you're looking for a job, look for those vacancies, apply because many people are retiring, separating from government agencies. So we are having mass exit. Plus, the political climate, you'll see a whole bunch of people leave as the elections come up. So this is a great time, but think about what you want as you apply for those positions. If you want a remote job, look for remote, look for virtual. If it doesn't say remote or virtual, and you know that you don't want to go back into office, maybe that's not the right position. And also think about communicating, right? If you have reasonable accommodations or if possibly talk to that employer about the amount of days that you'll work virtual versus the amount of days that you'll have to be in the office. That's important. That's part of your negotiation, part of when you look at the job announcement to understand what you're getting into. And when you talk to HR and your hiring officials, what are you getting into when you walk in that door so you understand the climate? Get to know people from the different agencies, right? If you want to work for the VA, you said the VA is a great place to work. You would be a great person to conduct like a informational interview, a one-on-one session to talk to you about the climate. Is it a great place to work? Might meet somebody at HHS or National Security Agency or IRS. Talk to those people, get to know them, network so you can understand the culture. And also, you mentioned the climate survey. So I know every year federal employees have to take is it called the Employment Viewpoint Survey? Make sure I get that acronym right.
Yes.
And it tracks basically the climate, like how do employees feel? Do they feel appreciated? Are they being rewarded, right, for their work? So you can look, this public record, you can look to see how agencies are stacking up and really decide, is that the agency you want to work for if it's all the way at the bottom of the EVS? Or maybe you want to apply to the one that's at the top of the EVS because the employees are happy and feel appreciated and love that workplace.
Yeah,
So
from
do either one of you have anything to add to that?
I actually do there, Dr. Gray. As you were talking about the viewpoint surveys, those surveys actually go all the way up to the director of the agency. And over time, they do collect them on this website that I wanted to direct you to and bring to your attention. It's actually called Best Place to Work in the Federal Government. So it takes all of that data and it puts it out there as to what agencies are the best place to work from, starting from the large agencies to the mid-size agency. All you have to do is just type in the best place to work for, type in the Department of Veteran Affairs, and I believe we come in number 5 as one of the large agencies on all of the employee survey data. Why that is important is because not all agencies are the same. Their values are different. Those statistics and data actually does affect in terms of people viewpoint and how they view that agency and how they service their employees. I know one agency in particular that has a number 1 rating, and that is NASA. NASA
Yes, I've
has the
heard that
number
before.
one out of the whole entire federal government, and it's one of the most best places to work for in the federal government. By being the best, I've actually have shot my shots, but also it's one of the most difficult agencies to get in. Not impossible, but relatively difficult as well. And I personally have used some little network strategies and reaching out to people on LinkedIn or so too. And even in my efforts in reaching out, it's very, very, kind of like, quiet. They're not as open as friendly per se. But I did get some information. Most people that work for NASA, they got on at NASA through like subcontracting agencies. They did a subcontract route of some sort, which ultimately landed them in a position at NASA. But NASA do have vacancy announcements open in various positions or so. And I'll cover it later on in the presentation on the hiring authority that they actually use to appoint people in their position. One of the hiring authorities, then I could just share it right quick. It's called the Direct Hire Authority. This hiring authority, any qualified individual can apply to any federal position without no competition with veterans or anything like that. Just as long as you qualify, you're likely to get referred and ultimately selected to those positions. So that's probably one of the best ways of getting appointed into federal service is through the Direct Hire Authority. For individuals that never worked for the federal government, that's the one that I highly recommend there. NASA do have a lot of Direct Hire Authority positions, so as many other organizations too, but just keep in mind that the competition is there's not a lot of competition per se when you're applying under that hired authority versus if you never work for the government and you're applying for a public announcement. Public announcements are always covered under what we call DEU, Delegating Examining Unit. And what that means is by law, if you are a veteran in the United States Federal Services, you have priority over non-veterans when you're applying to those positions. So veterans get preference over non-vets. So if there are multiple vacancy positions, we have to choose a vet first before we get to the non-vets in those settings. And you find a lot of those positions, like lower level positions, GS7s, 6-7s, and maybe some GS9s or some sorts like that. And those are the positions where you have a little competition if you never worked for the government there.
Yes, and Dr. Dobson, because I know you had something to say about that EVS and the employee and the climate. Please share your thoughts.
Absolutely, thank you. So the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey, there's so much insight, and I know you all touched on this, that comes from those Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey. And as you mentioned, Dr. Gray, that information is public. So any individual can go and search for FEV's results for an agency of interest. And, I know that you talked about earlier about people ensuring that they make an assessment. What is it that they truly desire? Do they want to work from home? Do they want to telework? Do they want to work remote work? There are so many different questions that are asked in that Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey, including the employee's perspective on how senior leaders lead, on their perspective on the diversity that is within their organization, how well leadership selects a diverse population of employees. There's even questions on how they participate in telework. And so you can see which agencies have a higher propensity or participation rate of telework and remote work and other workplace flexibilities. And there's also questions about whether or not the respondents indicate that they plan to retire, or if they plan to leave their agency and go to another agency, if they plan to exit the federal government within a certain time frame. So there's so many different data points that can be extracted from the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey. And as Dr. Hambright mentioned, there are certain points from FEVs that's used for the best places to work. And so you can look at all of that information. You can assess what agencies respondents are saying about that particular agency. And you can also see what the response rate was, the percentage of responses. And so certainly that is something that you would want to delve into and just really assess whether or not that agency, based on their FEVS results, if it's an agency that you would like to work for. So that's what I wanted to say about FEVS. I've had to do the analysis for different agencies, and I also wrote about it in my dissertation when I was doing my doctoral program. So it is an area that is critical in the decision making, and it gives a lot of insight for various agencies. So thank you, Dr. Ebony, for giving me the opportunity to just give some additional insight on the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey.
And thank you, Dr. Dobson and Dr. Hambright. So now I want to jump back into the point that you were making about getting into the door, right? So basically, you have done your research, you understand your values, you've looked at the different agencies, you've seen you want to work for NASA. You have to get in the door to work for that particular agency or any agency that you're seeking. Let's discuss some of the best practices. So you talked about the different hiring authorities, and I just had a conversation today about USAID. They're having a hiring fair, right? And they're doing direct hiring on the spot. If you go to the hiring fair, I believe it's March 16th. Don't quote me on that. Make sure you do your homework, research USAID career fair, but they're hiring direct and on the spot at this hiring fair. So you have to show up ready, right? With your resume, all of your credentials, transcripts, SF50, like come correct and come prepared to interview and put forth your best effort. But potentially you can show up and get hired right there on the spot, as you said, Dr. Hambright, with the direct hiring authority. So that is an option. Go to USA Jobs, scroll all the way down to the bottom, click on events, go to those agency events for IRS, HHS, USAID, and all the other agencies. Also, if there's a particular agency that you want to work for, go to that agency's website, right? And look up their hiring affairs and their events so you can be in a room, so you can network and you can connect. So if I wanted to work for NASA, I'm showing up at every hiring event. I'm looking for the direct hiring events, but also another thing you can do, as Dr. Hambright said, is you can connect with people from NASA. You can join professional organizations. You can get mentors, right, from NASA, like Google, NASA directors. You can look on LinkedIn, right, and see who's connected to NASA and say, can I meet with you for 30 minutes for an informational interview just to connect? I'm trying to get in the door. I just want to know about your agency. Maybe you can help me with some best practices or tips. That's some best practices. You can also look for, of course, the special hiring authorities if you're eligible as a veteran, PMF, Peace Corps, military spouse, Schedule A. So you can look for those opportunities. You can look for public opportunities as well. But again, whatever it takes to get in the door, I found your network directly impacts your net worth. So that is one of the keys to get in the door. So now I'm going to give the floor to Dr. Dobson and Dr. Hambright to allow you to talk about some best practices of actually getting in the door, networking to land that federal job. So Dr. Dobson, I'm going to let you go first because Dr. Hambright, I know you're about to bring it home to talk about specifically networking and the different pathways to get in the door to a federal career.
So thank you, Dr. Ebony. I really appreciate your inclusion of the importance of networking and LinkedIn. Many people know LinkedIn is the premier professional networking platform. Federal agencies are using it, private sector corporations are using it, nonprofits are using it. I think it's so much value to finding the agencies that you're interested in working for and looking to see if the agency has a LinkedIn profile that they're using for the agency to post announcements. If they have vacancy announcements, events on LinkedIn and on other platforms. Some agencies are even posting on Facebook. They have a Facebook page. So you want to make sure that you're using social media, not just to connect with people who you've, built relationships with over the years, but you're also looking at the organizations that have information on different social media platforms. It's also important, as you mentioned before, to connect with people within the agency. Maybe you want to connect with the chief human capital officer or a human resources officer, someone within the agency who, might be sharing information on opportunities that are available. I think it's always great to, start with, the people who were in your close network, maybe former colleagues at other organizations. Reach back to, the career portion of your university for your alma mater. If, you're still connected with them, if you're a current student or, from your past academic institutions. There are different networking events that are available. I mean, we look at big and young, there's different YGL. There's a whole lot of different organizations that exist for people to network, and you can start connecting with a lot of those organizations in and out of government. And, looking at points of contact that are listed for career fairs that are coming up and building those relationships and making connections. I think another way to transition into federal government opportunities is to look at government contractors. That is a underutilized approach. I know Neal mentioned earlier that NASA uses contracts to help for individuals to transition. There's internships, there's the Presidential Management Fellows Program, a lot of different Hardy Hatfield programs, so many different programs that exist for people to transition into government. And so I think, what's wise is to create and build and cultivate relationships. That's very, very, very important. And then just let people know, share with people what your intent is, what you're trying to do. And, I think that's always helpful too. If people don't know what your goal is, what you're working on, then they may not be able to help you to do that. So I think those are just some ways to, navigate around, networking and looking for opportunities that exist. And don't miss out on insight from mentors. I think it's valuable to have mentors who can, help to guide you and point you in the right direction. And then take advantage of a lot of things that are available online. We are doing, making this content available, but there's so many things that are out there. People are sharing information. There's different groups. There's federal HR groups on Facebook and on a lot of other different platforms. LinkedIn offers different groups that you can connect with. So start to connect with those groups that have content and what's of interest to you. And I think that's how you really can open other avenues to get your foot in the door.
Thank you, Dr. Dobson. Now, up next, Dr. Hambright, please give your thoughts on how people can network in order to get into their federal career.
Yes, I want to take it up a notch a little bit too, as Dr. Dobson had alluded to about the networking aspect, because we're talking about just the general population of employment, like Title 5, which is the higher authority that is how pretty much the federal government does staffing and resources. But there's another level, which is the executive services on up to the office of president. And a lot of the political appointees position, mostly majority, if not all of those types of positions, political appointee positions, are relationship based or so too. Your congressman and they introduce you to these group of people, and there you go, a door of opportunity open up for you just based upon the experience or their word that they're putting forth to you is really, really powerful. on that level. And that's a whole nother level in addition to, just regular government career service employees. There's a SES, and we call them the Schedule Cs and the executive service. They're on a higher pay level, pay band, and pay grade positions or so too. Most of the Congress people, they don't have to pay for their health care, that sort of thing there. Most federal workers, we only get 4 hours of annual leave, for an example, but Congress get 8 hours of Congress gets 16 hours of annual leave and 8 hours of sick leave versus the regular federal population only get 4 hours of sick leave throughout their entire federal career. So the benefits do get much greater and higher the higher up you go as well. But mostly that cadre of individuals are heavily network and relationship based.
Yeah, so I want to expand on the political appointments. So first of all, there is elections coming. So you will see a transition. But I will tell you, the political appointments are ongoing because people transition out of their positions all the time. Typically, you can find the political appointments on whitehouse.gov, and or you can Google political appointments from the White House or government political appointments. You can Google, it will pop up. You also can Google the political appointees' resumes. So you say, well, what type of resume am I supposed to submit? Most of it is public record because the Freedom of Information Act, people requested the political appointees' resumes. So you can Google that too, political appointees' resumes from whatever administration that you're seeking. So each presidential administration typically will bring in their own political appointees, meaning, let's say the Biden administration, when he took office, if you went to whitehouse.gov, it would say apply for these political appointments. They also have, what's the manual called? Oh my gosh, is it the purple guide? What's it called?
The guide to processing personnel actions. Is that what you're referring to, or are you referring
No,
to?
it actually lists all of the political appointments, like each of the jobs. So I'll type it in because I can't remember the title of the book, but it's actually the guide that lists every single political appointment. You can see the grade level because it goes from the GS1 all the way up to the top as far as political appointments. And another thing is you can go down levels, right? So you have the federal political appointments, and then you also have your state political appointments. So let's say Maryland, when the governor was elected, he also hired people to his cabinet and hired political appointees for the Maryland government. So you can look for those type of opportunities. Many people only look for federal opportunities. You can look for the county, you can look for local, you can look for state opportunities. Those are also opportunities for you. They're just as sweet, right? It's still federal, or I'm sorry, it's still government employment, and you can pursue those opportunities. And a lot of it is relationships, right? Like who you know, but also just checking to make sure you have the right skill set and being in the right place, going to the career fairs, showing up. You can volunteer, sit on commissions to get that expertise. You also, for the political appointments, show up, right? Volunteer for political campaigns. You can work at the different offices because they always need administrative support, marketing, websites developed. So you can just show fundraising, just show up, right? So that way you can put their name on your application to refer you for the different positions. And again, you can Google the political appointee resumes and you can see what's on the resumes and how they're getting referred into these positions. It's a great way to get into the federal government. Now, when that administration leaves, sometimes you have to leave too. But that's not always the case. It's not so much always tied to the parties and the loyalty. Sometimes it really is just a political appointment, and some of the same people remain in office. So you keep your position. Other times, yes, you do have to leave. So you will be prepared to pursue another position once you leave that political appointment. So next up, I want to get into some of the special hiring authorities. So we did talk about some but I want people to understand how they can get into these federal careers. So we have public, right? Anybody, it's a free for all. Everybody apply. But what is direct hiring authority? Like, what type of jobs can they get with the direct hiring authority? And also, what are some of the special hiring authorities that maybe your average person just hasn't thought about or doesn't know about?
Oh yeah, I'll chime in on that one. The direct hire authority, which make it so unique, is that it's a special hire authority in which the United States Department of Personnel Management grants a federal agency to be able to hire for certain positions that are deemed as critical shortage positions within that particular federal agencies. So, for example, I know for a fact 2210s or one of the series that is a critical shortage positions, and those are IT specialist positions. The government cannot compete with the IT marketplace out there in terms of pay or whatever there. So IT specialists, IT managers, anything information technology related or cybersecurity or these types of positions and skill set, the government actually need talented people in these positions, and they do pay competitively, but sometimes the pay is not necessarily equal to like the private sectors because the government we're so regulated by Congress, and also we have fiscal responsibility in terms of how we are utilizing taxpayer dollars in that regard there. So that's the reason why we can't just give people like $200,000, $300,000 for their IT experience per se, but yet we do compensate well. Our benefit packages are some of the greatest as well. And one of the buzz things I want to throw out there, we have almost about 8 federal holidays that we get paid time off, not including the weekends. We have some of the most best flexible working schedules that's out there in the market. So those are kind of some of the trade-offs that we have out there. But pretty much the direct hire authority, OPM grants that to the agency, and they allow to hire individuals that are qualified without any competition from any other folks. So you're not getting beat out by a veteran. You're not getting beat out by this group or that group or anything there. It's that if you qualify, we want you.
Right. And I know, Dr. Neal, you talked about the information technology, the 2210 series, and that historically for quite some time, I would say for over a decade almost, has been a direct hire shortage. Oftentimes your positions like for engineering positions, those are often have been direct hire. But a lot of people would be surprised to know that in the last year or two, a lot of agencies have had 201s, the human resources management related career fields have been added to direct hire because of the challenges that many agencies have had with recruiting and retaining the right numbers and quantities of HR professionals. And in the federal government, some agencies have HR generalists who have a myriad of functions for HR, and some agencies separate the different functions from staffing and recruitment, labor relations, employee relations, all of those things. So a lot of people will be very surprised to know that federal agencies currently have human resources professionals as a direct hire authority, which, probably 10 years ago, that would have probably been unheard of, but is definitely one of the positions that's on the direct hire authority for many agencies currently.
So that shows where we're going. But the one program I would like to highlight, and Dr. Dobson, you are very familiar with this one, is the Presidential Management Fellows Program and the Pathways Program, because sometimes we'll have people that are military. We have extended time from when we graduate in order to qualify for the program. But sometimes people are transitioning from college, or maybe they're currently pursuing their degree. I want them to know about these opportunities because they don't have the experience. They want to get the experience. They still want to get into government. So can you speak a bit about those programs for those that have graduated, the recent graduates from college, and how they can get into the government.
Absolutely. So I absolutely advocate for, all of the programs, but especially for the Presidential Management Fellows Program as a 2014 Presidential Management Fellow. The Presidential Management Fellows Program, or PMF program, is a leadership program that allows people to come into the government, and this program is open to anyone who has completed a graduate level degree or higher within the last 2 years of the application cycle, or someone who will complete a degree within a year of the application cycle. So before the next cycle, there's a cutoff date that you would have to complete it by if you're enrolled in a graduate or higher level program. And for this particular program, there's a multi-phase process for the application. So there's the initial application that typically opens up in the fall, early fall, typically. And you can go to the Office of Personnel Management. The Office of Personnel Management has a pmf.gov site, PMF for Presidential Management Fellow.gov site that contains all of the information on how to apply, what's required. And so you go through the initial application process. There's a platform that's utilized for all candidates to apply. And you go through that process, and the Office of Personnel Management will select semifinalists who will continue in the process for consideration as a Presidential Management Fellow. And historically, they've done on-site assessments. There the Office of Personnel Management can choose how they manage that program, so they can adjust. But traditionally, there are on-site assessments for that. To my knowledge, this past year, there were virtual assessments that were done, but OPM oversees that program. And so after the semifinalists are selected, they go through the process of further examination. And then after that, all of those results are reviewed. And then normally by the early part of the calendar year, so sometime between the latter part of the calendar year, early part of the next calendar year, sometime in the winter, those finalists are announced. So OPM announces the finalists, and then individuals who are selected as Presidential Management Fellows finalists will then look for an appointment as a PMF. So getting selected as a finalist doesn't automatically make a person a PMF, but they have a window that they're required to find a PMF appointment. And all of the agencies who are participating have points of contact, and they have a system that they use to post those PMF appointments. Presidential Management Fellows appointments are 2-year appointments. They're appointed in the accepted service. And during that time, they're required to do a certain number of training hours each year that they're participating in the program. And at the end of the program, the agency can choose to retain them and convert them, or the PMF can decide to go to another agency. But during the process of participating, PMFs also have rotational opportunities to allow them to develop. And so they can choose, depending on the rules for their agency that they're appointed to do a rotation or multiple rotations within the agency or external to another agency, just depending on what their agency permits them to do. But it's an amazing program. The initial appointments for PMS begin at a grade 9 as the lowest or the minimum grade, I guess I should say. And then there's a maximum grade while they're in the program, but many PMFs go on to senior level positions within the federal government. So that's just one opportunity that is available for individuals who have a graduate level degree or higher, or who are pursuing those types of degrees if they're within a year of their graduation date. I know another one that you asked about was the Pathways program, and Pathways historically was a program that was for individuals who were pursuing a degree and would allow them to receive an appointment and then receive development, and their work schedule is, crafted around their college courses and all of that. And so they usually have a career ladder position as well. And then there's an opportunity for the agency to retain them once they've completed their degree and then convert them. And so that's another opportunity that's available. There are also announcements for recent graduates that are not in the PMF program. And so that's another opportunity. People can search on USA Jobs for recent graduates. And then there's other opportunities that are available for interns and a variety of other things that, are available. And I know Dr. Hambright can probably speak more to any of those additional options or any gaps that I may have, if there's any gaps that you want to fill.
Thank you there, Dr. Dobson. No, actually, you covered them all or so there. These programs, every last one of them, from interns to recent graduates to President Management Fellow Program, they all are authorized through by the President Executive Order 13562 to be exact there. And all of these are on OPM website. And also on USA Jobs too, they have a section there that leads you into these designated areas about these different programs, and also NASA and some of the other internship opportunities that are out there as well. I personally have worked with the pathway programs and was able to work with interns, and they had rotational things that they would do. And at the end of the pathway program, the agency have to have a responsibility of making sure that they have a position available at the end of the program in order to convert them out of the pathway appointment into a federal position there. So this is a great program for a lot of our young adults or young people that's coming out of high school, that's going to college and looking to transition into federal service there. So we actually covered the beginning stages opportunities for them as well too.
And the one program that is not often talked about, but I'm always going to advocate for my intelligence agencies. You can go to nsa.gov. You can go to intelligencecareers.gov. First of all, to find jobs. So anybody can go to intelligencecareers.gov, look at any of the intelligence agencies, CIA, DIA, NSA, all the alphabets to find the careers. Also, if you want to find the federal agencies, is it USA.gov? I know on
USJobs.gov, that's correct.
USAjobs.gov provides the list of the federal agencies, but you will not see some of the intel agencies on USAjobs.gov. So if you want to see the intel agencies, go to intelligencecareers.gov, and that'll list the intel, and then you go to those individual sites. But one program is called the Stokes Scholarship. So you can look for like internships and scholarships for intelligence careers. It's listed on the site, but the Stokes Scholarship specifically covers your 4-year tuition to any school with the STEM program. So you have to be one of the STEM majors. Plus, it allows you a fellowship in the federal government. So you graduate debt-free. Plus, you'll have 4 years of experience in the federal government, and you'll be able to work within the intelligence community. That is a program. It was specifically targeted towards African American students, but now it's open to all minority students. Apply. Get that experience, get that money, right? Mm-hmm. And get that grade, because it's also elevated grades with the Stokes program. So you can look, USA Jobs, look for recent grads, look for interns, look for pathways, look for PMF program. For intelligencecareers.gov, just scroll through their site, look for scholarships, interns, fellowship opportunities. If you're currently in college or university, go to your career office, ask them for any type of opportunities or any site visits that the USA government is providing. Ask them if they have a list of fellowships and internships, because you want to take advantage. You should not just start looking for a job when you graduate. You should already be doing the internships, getting the experience as a freshman. So I want all of you to really understand these opportunities that are out there from the beginning. So we're setting you up from the beginning when you start school, because you can even do the internships as a high schooler. So I don't want you to wait till you get to college. Get that experience as a high schooler as well. So we're going from high school all the way up to senior level. If you're trying to be the SES or the political appointee, do it, right? We are here to help you. As we wrap it up, I would like to ask Dr. Hambright and Dr. Dobson, do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share with the audience, and also to provide ways that they can connect with you if they want to connect following this podcast?
Yes, thank you so much, dear Dr. Gray. There, I just wanted to wrap up some other hiring authorities that individuals can be legally appointed into federal services, and of course, that is our military veteran population. You don't have to have a vacancy announcement or anything to be legally appointed in the federal service if you are a veteran, particularly 30% disabled veterans. We can appoint you into federal service without competition. So that's number one. Number two, there, if you are a disabled individual, you have a Schedule A appointment letter. It's just a general letter from your doctor, nothing specific due to HIPAA regulations and everything there, but just something that's stating that you are eligible to apply for federal service under a Schedule A letter. Then that's another hiring authority that allows individual to be appointed into federal service without competition as well too. So those are just some other two things that I kind of wanted to share with you all. All of this is on usajobs.gov, where you can click on these various authorities and various positions that are out there. The federal government is one of the largest employers in the world. Or so these positions are just not in the United States, but they're all over the world there where you can actually serve. There's three branches of government: the judicial branch, the legislative branch, as well as the executive branch. And all of them need qualified, talented people just like you.
And thank you. I do want to intercede. So, Special Hiring Authority, SPPC, right? You can contact the SPPC coordinators, and you can Google that. You can look it up. I'll provide the link once we post, but you can connect with them, send them your Schedule A letter, send them your resume, and ask them if they have opportunities at their agency. For the Veteran Hiring Authority, we have the veteran coordinators, the veteran POCs. You also can Google, you can look it up to find the veteran POCs for each federal agency. You can contact them, you can email them, you can call them, you can send them your resume. They are going to ask you for your DD Form 214. Don't be surprised about that. Make sure you redact any PII information before you send it. Redact your social security number. And also any type of disability, VA disability letter, you can send to that VA POC. You can communicate with them, ask them if they have opportunities, and show up if they have any VA hiring authority type career fairs. Make sure you advocate for yourself and establish those relationships. That's another way to network, and they will talk to you. They will help you. Their job is to help to get you in the door and also to fill those positions in those special hiring authorities. And next up, Dr. Dobson.
So the other thing that I just want to point out, if you are on USA Jobs and you don't recall all these different things that we've said, or was it PMF, pathways, what was it? There is a filter on USA Jobs that you can search, and you can actually select the categories on the filter that apply to you. So there's a one that says public. So if you don't have any special categories that you fall under, you're not a military spouse, you're not a veteran, you're not a person with disability, you're not a recent graduate. So you're not interested in Peace Corps, you haven't been in the Peace Corps, you can just click public, but there's options on there and you can select all of the ones that apply to you before you do your search. And that will allow you to ensure that when you're searching on USA Jobs that you're seeing the opportunities that you're actually in the area of consideration for. So that's the one thing I just want to point out. If you're trying to remember all the verbiage and it's not coming to the forefront of your mind, just take a look on that tab and you can filter out and select all the ones that apply to you. And that will help you to maximize the results that are coming up for you. So that was just something that I wanted to point out as an added tip for those who are out on USA Jobs. And then I know you mentioned the website for intelligence careers, but if people are looking for contracting opportunities and they have a clearance, clearedjobs.com is a site that you can go to see contracting opportunities for people with clearances. So that's another site that can be used as well. And I know you wanted us to share insight on how people can reach us. So you can reach me on my website at aprildobson.com, and it has all of my social media handles there. So thank you so much, Dr. Gray. It was wonderful being able to have this discussion with you all. And thank you, Dr. Hambright. Certainly a pleasure. And thank you, to everyone who's watching. And I'll turn it back over to you, Dr. Gray.
And Dr. Hambright, I want to give you the floor and the opportunity. How can people connect with you? Because I know they want to reach out to both you and Dr. Dobson. So how can people connect with you? And also, how can they purchase your book?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Gray. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I am Dr. Neal Hambright. So that's Drneal and last name Hambright. That's HAMBRIGHT. And I'll be more than happy and more than willing to assist and to direct and lead you in the way that you should go there. Our book can be purchased on Amazon.com. Just type in The Autonomous Career, freedom of time and space in your chosen workplace. Or you can Google our names there, Dr. April Dobson, as well as myself, and The Autonomous Career will pop up or so. So you can even Google us now and we will pop up or so, and you can click on The Autonomous Career and we'll be more than happy to service you there. Dr. April and I, if you want a personalized signed book copy or so, just reach out to us directly and we'll provide some instruction and information on how to get you that signed, personalized author copy right into your hands there. So back to you there, Dr.
Neal and Dr. April, I definitely need my signed copy of the book. Yeah. Listen, I'm taking notes on that one. But again, thank you both. Thank you, Dr. Hambright. Thank you, Dr. Dobson, for joining me tonight for Unlocking Federal Employment. I am truly grateful that you shared your time and your expertise with myself and the audience. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am Dr. Ebony Grey. You can find me everywhere under Dr. Ebony Grey, Gray's Consulting Group. We will be going live every first Wednesday. Myself and Dr. Dobson, we are releasing our book, Unlocking Federal Employment. We are marketing, we're promoting, we're trying to get you those federal jobs. So you got to first read The Autonomous Career, right? So you can understand the mindset and the psychology behind it. And then we want you to unlock the keys to federal employment. So thank you, thank you, thank you both so much for showing up for yourselves. Thank you for showing up for others. Truly appreciate you. Loved our session. And again, to the audience, thank you for taking the time to listen to us this evening. We are going to be here every first Wednesday to share our insight. So thank you. Make sure you tune in and listen to us every first Wednesday. Again, I'm Dr. Ebony Grey, and I wish you all good night.
Good night.
All right, good night.